Yes.
Okay, can please anyone tell me what is language shift?
We have already studied this chapter.
Chapter 3, language shift, language maintenance and shift.
Yes,
Yes, language maintenance and shift. Who tell me what is language maintenance and shift? Anyone, please? Yes, anyone, please?
Ma'am, when we talk about language, it cannot
Yes.
remain constant or the same forever. It changes with passage of time.
Yes.
It's a natural phenomenon.
Mm.
As we always see,
Yes. I cannot hear you properly. Fahim, I
were
cannot
still
hear
there
you.
or around even 7,000 circa. Spanish, French, and
Mm.
these divided, and English came, and that explained. So basically, it's a natural phenomenon that a language cannot stay forever the same, because we see that Spanish, French, Italian, these came out of the Latin, for example. So basically, some languages die with passage of time, and other languages come into form. So a language cannot stay the same. Some languages die, and others take birth. Same is the case with language maintenance and language shift.
Mm.
Sometimes a particular speech community tries to maintain their language, and they try their level best. For example, we see that Hinko is about to be eradicated soon from our society because we don't
Yes.
have even speakers. The government does not take initiative. So basically, sometimes a community or speech community tries to maintain their language by producing literature, writing, etc. And sometimes we people basically shift from language to the other, and it happens even in second generation or maybe third generation. This is what the multiple voices says. Multiple voices book of the bilingualism states this fact. I'm
Mm.
not talking about the book that we have. This is what
So
I've read
then,
over there. Okay, it might
okay.
appear.
So then, what's the difference between language change and language shift? Language change and language shift.
All right. Language change and language shift. The language change is basically a natural phenomenon that language changes with passage of time. And language shift is that basically we people change language. We might prefer, instead of Pashto, we prefer English more. So this basically we are shifting from Pashto to English gradually or naturally or even intentionally.
Yes. So your first definition, wherever you have studied it. See, I have 10 minutes left in this session. Okay. So there's this difference, and you have to be clear about that. And that is, language shift is in it is dependent on whether it's happening in the communities or whether it is happening on the individual basis. So language shift in different communities or language shift in individuals, this would mean something else. Language change in the language, this would mean something else. Language change is when the language changes, means different features of the language changes, and there is this change occurring in different features of the language. That can be lexical change, that can be semantic change, that can be syntactic change. For instance, this word uh, this word gay has changed its meaning with the passage of time, and there is this this permanent change of a semantic shift, and that semantic shift means that we have given it a different meaning. A different meaning is associated now with this word. This is called semantic change, which is occurring throughout the language, because language is arbitrary. It would change with the passage of time, and that is the reason that we consider language as a living thing, because words die and words change, sentences change, and there is a constant change occurring in the language with the passage of time, right? So language, but then we come towards language shift. Language shift in communities would be the way, Fahim has given the example of Hinko speakers, like they have started shifting towards the other languages, means English, or let's suppose Urdu, in different communities. And it can also happen in individuals as well. Now it depends on what is your study, or what is your area of study, what are you studying actually. If you're studying a community, for example Hinko community, and you're trying to see the shift occurring in their language, then you are going to study. But you have to be very careful about language change and language shift. So the first definition that Fahim gave was about language change, not about language shift. Language shift is when you shift your one language towards the other. However, the changes occurring within the language is considered as language change. That is called language change, not language shift. It can occur of in one individual as well. For example, community I mean, for example, a person may shift from one language to the other, means they communicate in one language, which can be, for example, if there is a Pashto speaker and he shifts to the other language and slowly and gradually forgets about the language. Can anyone please tell me what's first language? What's the definition of first language? Can anyone please tell me what's first language? I'm waiting.
Ma'am,
Yes,
can we say
please.
that the language that we acquire from our parents is the first language,
Uh,
or the
sure.
dominant
Ma'am,
language of a person?
Who was it?
Aminullah.
Amin. Okay, the first language that we
Uh,
acquire from our parents is the first language.
yes, or the dominant language of a person that
The
he uses
dominant
on most of.
language. Yes, very good. First language is the dominant
ma'am,
language.
the,
Yes,
uh,
yes.
uh, uh, ma'am, the question you have put is a bit contradictory because we call it first language, mother tongue, L1, and all these things.
Yes.
These are synonymously used. But the question is, we can also call it mother tongue, first language, etc. But the question is, what if mother dies at the time of the time of delivery, and the child is orphan or could be in the orphan house, and what if he learns language from the others? Basically, first language refers to uh, we can refer to a language acquired for the first time by the child at the time of childhood or infanthood. Later on, rest of the languages come, which come under the category of second language. It could
Are
be
you
even many,
sure?
but they,
Are you sure?
yeah, I'm sure because yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure because a child, when the time he learns first language for the first time in infant or childhood, that's basically the first language.
Anyone
And
in this
even
class who disagrees?
it can it's not important that that is one language. It could be two or three languages at the same time as well, counted as first language.
Yes. Anyone else who disagrees? Yes,
Ma'am,
please.
could
Anyone?
we say that the dominant language of a person that he uses on most of the occasion?
Hmm.
Let's suppose a child born and his parents died,
Yes.
and he is shifted to another country, and there he acquires a new language. So in
Yes.
that case, that is his mother tongue,
Hmm.
because he forgets about his initial language.
Yes. He forgets about it. So, for him, there's a question for you. Y-
Yes, ma'am.
Will L1 forever remain the same? Will L1 language remain as L1, means first language?
No, it's not important because it can be even shifted or changed with passage of time.
Yes.
Depends entirely on the
So this means
individual and the community.
Yeah. So this means that the definition you gave was wrong. Your first language is the language that is the most dominant language that you speak. Means you are the most proficient at that language, right? It is based.
What passage of
It's
time
not based.
ma'am,
Yes.
what passage of time I forgot most of my Pashto vocabulary because
Mm.
I was abroad. For example, I was abroad and I forgot most of
Yes.
my Pashto language. So do you think my first language is English now?
Yes. When you forget your L1, your L1 is the language
Not
in which
completely.
you, yes, your L1 is the language. I remember my own teacher, even today, as a Dr. Mujib. He taught us very well, this concept of languages. What if we acquire two languages at the same time? Who is this? Saima? You're proficient at, if you acquire two languages at one time, you're bilingual. And then we have three different types of bilingualism: compound bilingualism and other types of bilingualism. It depends. If you have acquired two languages with the passage of time, slowly and gradually, you'll be proficient at one language and you will not be proficient at the other language. So it depends. One language would always be dominant over the other. Means you'll be more proficient and you'll be using that language more. So if you're dominant, so L1 is actually the language in which it's a dominant language, not dominant in the sense of in a community dominant language, because this dominant language in inverted commas, it's a different type of a language as well in a community. What is a dominant language?
Ma'am, can you count me as because for example, my English is more dominant than Pashto language. Can you count me as L1 of English?
Count you as L1. Right now,
Yes, L1 of English.
your L1, if you can communicate well in L1, right now your L1 is English. If you have forgotten words, vocabulary from Pashto, you cannot communicate properly, and you are more into communicating in English, then your L1 is English. For example, if someone goes abroad and there are people that they will stop communicating in their mother tongue. I'm only left with 1 minute, then please click the same link to join the class. If you are communicating in continuously in English and you forget about your mother tongue, you forget the words, though it may not happen in all the cases, but it might happen in any one or two three cases. So if that happens in your case, then um, your L1 changes to English. I mean, their L1 changes to English. Then their L1 is going to be English, and L2 is going to be the mother tongue that they have already acquired, but they do not, but it is